Hi, and welcome to Call Center Week. I'm Kevin Popovich, and I'm with Jim Ayub, the Executive Vice President from eTech. How are you, Jim?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. A lot of things going on here at Call Center Week. Big topic is social media. Big open question, how is social media changing this industry?
So, that's a great question. So if you think about where the buyers and connectors are, everybody's talking in our industry about, this ideal customer experience and, we want to deliver this great experience. I actually just hosted a roundtable on this topic. Here's the reality of it. At the end of the day, it's not the customers, meaning the brand, it's not their decision to tell me how to contact them. If I'm spending money with this brand or I want to interact with this brand, it's my choice to decide what channel I want to use. Me personally, I love using social customer care. I'm a busy person. I don't want to pick up the phone. In most cases, I really refuse to use the phone, and I would prefer to go into that channel in a social media. And social media is not just Twitter, Facebook, and all the other social platforms, but it also includes your chat, your email. So I look at it as an omni-channel. And if the brand isn't ready to accept the terms I want to do business with them, maybe I'm not ready to accept to do business with that brand.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that have changed from the old 800 number, right? Or, for customer service, dial this 10 digit, right?
Mm-hmm. So if you think about the Twitter, it's pretty simple, right? If I have an issue and I want it resolved, and a lot of people, the argument is you can't explain your process in 144 characters. I disagree. If you can't explain your problem in 144 characters, maybe you should use the phone. I'm not saying shut down the phone.
Right.
What I'm telling people is it's my decision to decide how I want to tackle my problem.
Yeah, because I think that there's a lot more of that empowered consumer today, right? It's not like the old days of you had to go into the store, right? I have to plan my trip and go into the store, and it became a big thing, and have to talk to a person, right? Today, with social media and other forms of communication really kind of permeating the way our culture communicates, there is that expectation of the empowered consumer that I want to do it my way, right?
Yep, absolutely. And I'll give you a perfect example. In my lifetime, which I'm still old, but not that old.
I don't think I'm too far behind you.
I look at my daughter, who's 13 years old, and recently she saw on TV that she can order a pizza without ever talking to a human being, which is, I'm sure you saw the commercial for that company. And she's 13, and she's already saying, "Dad, this is awesome. You mean I never have to speak to a human being and I can get pizza delivered?" That's what we're up against. So to our point, we talk about my uncles and my aunts who probably traditionally want to use call centers. They'll continue that route. But the future of our business and the future of our opportunities are going to be in this millennial world, which is let me decide how I'm going to contact you.
Yeah, and I think as people have become more comfortable, right? There were some of the early adopters, right? Some big box companies that decided they were going to put a slew of agents on Twitter, right? And we'll just let everybody handle it. And I think early on, there's like, are you guys crazy? Like how are you going to do that? But it worked, and they got a lot of access, and they got a lot of accolades, and there's a lot of good brand recognition to it. And fast forward, let's call it 4 or 5 years later, Twitter obviously is a big channel. But as you described the omni-channel, right? You're really talking about email, chat, which is very big. Which they had some early adopters early on. You went onto the website and there's all of a sudden the pop-up. If you didn't have your pop-up blocker on, that and there's some person or emulation of a person. Hi, I'm Susan. What can I help you with, right? And I think people were kind of creeped out about that a little bit. But as our culture becomes more and more accustomed to electronic communication, and even present some perceptions of perhaps some automated types of things that emulate the person as a lead into, it's just the way that things are today, right?
It is, and it's funny you say that about the early adopters and when the pop-up blocker was there, and technology has grown so much over the years. Some of the original players in the chat space are literally antiquated nowadays. So some of the cool technology that I'm really enjoying to see is the snippets of code that you can place in an omni-channel environment. Mm-hmm. So one of the things we've been able to create recently, which is really exciting, is we have the ability now to engage a customer via chat in a mobile device, iPad, doesn't matter, from a banner ad. So as an example, if I'm a marketing guy and I want to engage my customer off some site. The old days, to your point, what you're talking about, you have to click on that site, it brings you to another site, and then from there, I have a rule has to trigger, and then my chat box comes in.
Right.
The technology now is so smooth, they can click on it in the middle of a form, as an example, and just have a chat, in-session chat or informed chat. Technology has gone above and beyond where it came from.
Right.
And the last thing I want to just say about that, though, at the end of the day, the part that really is the ultimate driving force, at the end of the day, technology is an enabler. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It enables us to do our jobs better. But it's still a human being behind there.
Right.
So I talk to people all the time that say, yeah, but I'm worried about, you sound like a robot. Chat sound, that's training. That has nothing to do with the technology.
Right. Yeah, and I think that you'll have those from a procedural side. You have the scripting that you're gonna have any kind of customer service thing, right? Here's your hot things, here's your FAQs, if this then that kind of stuff, and that's just providing your agents the proper resources and the directional tools for them to do a good job. That doesn't mean they can't bring personality and the human element in it, right? It's been described. We had B2B, B2C.
Yep.
Brian Kramer, I think, does H to H, human to human, and I think that's where I think I see customer service going too, because humans want to deal with humans, and I think as we get more and more accustomed to technology, where it's not so much of a barrier. I mean, you look at what can we learn from our technological past that indicates that this will be successful in the future, right? Remember, I don't remember actually calling an operator and asking her to connect a call for me, but there was a very laborious process, right? I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to pick up the thing and say yes, Klondike 356, right? And then 3 letters went into or 4, a number in a letter went into 7, and 7 went into 10, and people bitched when they had to put all of a sudden I've got to put an area code, and then they changed area codes. But there's all these things that you had to think about in order for this to happen. And I think as social media becomes much more of we get a comfort level with that, people will again think less about the technology and more about the experience and what they're getting out of it. Don't you think?
Oh, I agree. So when you think about experience, and I just read a book recently called The Effortless Customer Experience. If you've seen it, it's actually great. It says the same thing. I think a lot of people that talk about this customer experience, it's almost an unobtainable goal to delight every customer.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what it's about is satisfying my need. So why don't we take this experience now, instead of looking at the brand, let's look at the consumer. Look at it from my point of view. If I want to use Twitter to get my problem resolved, help me make that happen.
Right.
If I want to call, let me allow a phone number, to your point. Some of the technology that we've able to been put together recently, which is really cool and exciting, is this whole, how do I make my agent better? So we created a technology recently called Sandra. So what Sandra does is Sandra, and it's artificial intelligence, the technology guys create those acronyms for whatever reason.
Is this like Siri's sister?
Siri's sister.
Yeah, right. We call her Sandra.
We call her Sandra.
Right.
So what it does now, though, is when someone comes in, and let's just say hypothetically I'm asking for some type of an account balance or whatever. What it does is Sandra will actually tell the agent, hey, this is what your customer's doing online. They're on their account balance form, so the odds of them, they're going to be probably asking you about their account balance. So it prepares your agent now to deliver that customer experience. And in fact, the person does type the question, what's my account balance? Sandra will tell the agent, here's my suggestion, use this, as we talked about scripting. So it makes it more effortless, not only for the agent, but for the customer. Because we all know that everybody, if you're running a world-class operation, your response time should be less than 30 seconds. Right. In order to obtain that, you need to have the tools that allows your agents to be efficient. That's some of the cool, exciting things that are happening in the world of social commerce and the way you're going to see this interaction with the customer. Secondly, I think the other piece that's coming in is, how do I take this omni-channel approach, which everybody's talking about,
right,
and how do I integrate all this data so that if Sally calls the call center and then 2 days later tweets, how do I make sure I know I have all that data? And that's where you're talking about this unified console that's going to pull all of these data feeds in, so that regardless how the customer contacts you, you know what the issue is.
So how does, so omni-channel, I think to a lot of people sounds like this very big thing, right? And if we take it a literal, all channels, right? So how does a customer prepare for omni-channel?
So it's a great question. So today's session, we were talking about earlier, one of the things people said was, yeah, we don't currently do chat or social or anything. We're just a traditional call center. And he said, we know we need it, but I think it's going to wait until all of our customers either leave us or complain enough that the CEO says, hey, you guys need to do this. And the problem with that strategy is if you try to escalate to get into the strategy of an omni-channel, overnight it's going to fail. So what I see is you can, walk before you run.
Right.
I 100% believe you can find a partner that would be nimble enough and flexible enough to start small and grow. And I think that's what people miss. I think people think that when they hear the word social, they hear the word omni-channel, they hear the word anything, these buzzwords that are going out there, they think millions of dollar investments. Right. And that's not necessarily the case. You could literally launch, as you said early in the beginning, people threw 5-10 agents at social, let's see what we can do,
right,
and learn as you go. The worst thing that people talk about is, I'm so worried about the viral mishap.
Yeah,
but I did a study.
Right.
I recently read a study of the viral mishaps, 50 of them in 10 years. The number one reason for the viral mishap, which is the retweeting and the sharing of this bad brand,
right,
all had to do with customer experience. Had nothing to do with stealing, lying, cheating, product. It was all about the experience they had.
And haven't we been dealing with that, long before technology?
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, what's the rule of, you have one happy customer? I think the stat was they tell 6 friends, or you have an unhappy one, they tell 20 friends.
Yep.
Right. It's the same thing. It's just kind of the bigger companies statistically will have more people.
But if we're going to be honest with ourselves, we also know, being in the call center space, the reason they like that is because if it's a call, they can pretend the call didn't appear. Because how many consumers are recording their phone calls?
Right.
Call centers record them all. In the social world, it's different. Everything that's out there is out there. What they say, we're in Vegas right now.
Yeah.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It's also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's on everything. Nothing is private anymore.
Right. All right. So obviously we could have quite a long discussion about this. What are first steps for somebody to get started? Because I think it's very helpful for us to help people understand the issue. But let's give them some actionable advice on what to go about doing about it.
That's a great idea. So the first thing I would say is just look at, do my customers have an online presence? Mm-hmm. If my customers have an online presence, there's listening tools out there. There's things you can do that don't cost you anything to find out if my customer wants me to be in this channel.
Right.
I think the second thing you do is start small. Don't go with all the big, it's not necessarily have to be 50, 100 people to do this. Start small. Set up a social media listening station in your call center today. Put 1 or 2 agents on it and just respond just to your own direct tweets. Just respond to your own Facebook page as a step 1. As you start doing that, then step 2, step 3 down the road is you can grow it and expand from it, and you can test the waters before you have to invest in millions of dollars of technology or whatever people think the perception is you have to spend, which we both know it's not millions of dollars.
Yeah, and I think my contribution to the thought would be that I think a lot of the times when we say social media, people start getting a little wiggy, right? Because it's technology. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how that. But everybody knows how to deal with people, right?
Yep.
And I think a lot of times people just forget that all social media is technology that's allowing people to communicate between other people. So maybe if they keep that in mind, it'll make it a little easier for them to get started.
And I think also the last thing, and I agree with you 100%, and remember, if you don't know how to do it, there's partners out there that can help you do it. Right. And I would suggest people to do that. If your core competency is building telecommunications lines and it's not social media, maybe find someone who can partner with you and help you.
Maybe we could tell them a couple guys they should talk to.
Absolutely.
I appreciate the time.
I appreciate you so much.
Right.
Have a great day.
More to come from Call Center Week. Check out #CallCenterWeek on Twitter.